we have Kelly Ann Winget. She is a visionary leader in the world of our alternative investments and really the driving force behind alternative wealth partners. She is somebody that is changing the way that people are able to dream big and think creatively, especially as CEOs. I know it can be scary sometimes to change things up, to implement new strategies into your organization. But I promise you, the way that Kelly sees the world and creativity and with her innovative mindset, it's really going to empower you to dream a bit bigger. She grew up in North Dallas. You're going to hear a little bit about the environment that she was immersed in, that emphasized financial independence and really the unconventional ways of thinking that she has. And now she leads a firm that champions non-correlated assets across multiple sectors, including oil and gas, private equity, venture investing, and opportunity zones. And really, her commitment is serving everyday millionaires and getting people on board to see that there's so much potential when we really meet people where they are and we start supporting people in these different ways. So I know that you're going to want to listen to today's episode. We have to start thinking differently to be a part of the future of work. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the FeelSwell Cultures podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. I have a great friend here today, actually. We've done podcast episodes before. I feel like we've traveled all over the country together, and we've had a lot of fun. And this is someone that's very special. She is changing the way that people think about business. And I'm really excited to share her with you today and just dive into how we can think differently, how you can be more innovative, how you can be more creative as a CEO, and really take your business to the next level. So Kellyanne Winget, can you just share a little bit about who you are, why you do what you do with Alternative Wealth Partners and, where you are today?
I started Alternative Wealth Partners in 2020 in the middle of COVID, which I think was the best time to start a business. I think there's probably been a number of really great businesses started in the last 4 to 5 years. And I was raised by entrepreneurs and I was always encouraged to take risks early on. So I think that even though I took a non-traditional route to where I am today, I think that it was always ultimately going to happen this way. And so I got to work under some incredible operators in privately held businesses. And so when I had the opportunity to raise capital around it and then ultimately start investing in this space, it was kind of a natural calling. And so it's been interesting to see the challenges from both sides, both working inside of other people's businesses and then growing my own.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Alternative Wealth Partners? And, I know we've talked a lot about it, but for the CEO that's listening, for the executive, what is Alternative Wealth Partners and what are you doing in today's world? Because you really are making a difference, and I want people to know that.
So Alternative Wealth Partners is a private equity company. And I know that private equity is like a term that could mean many things. And most people don't know even where to begin what private equity is. They think it's some big dark like cloud of money that circles around businesses, which it kind of is. But I left family office, so like very, very high net worth individuals that run their wealth like a business. I left that space to start my own, and I wanted to give access to that investment experience, that wealth management experience to I call them regular everyday millionaires, because that's where we are headed here anyways. I think that everyone has the potential to be a regular everyday millionaire and have the solutions and the support around them to continue to either preserve their wealth, grow their wealth, or transition their wealth from generation to generation.
Hmm. What would you say the biggest difference is between Alternative Wealth Partners and other private equity companies?
Most private equity companies are looking to acquire a business, whether majority or minority stake in an existing business. Typically, private equity covers all capital from venture to buyout. And I think that people get that confused where they think venture is a different segment, but it's all part of private equity. When we're talking about traditional private equity, it's typically in the growth and buyout stage. So they're investing in established businesses that either want to go from 50 million to 100 million or more, or they're buying large businesses for $1 billion, trying to scale it, change it in some sort of way, or roll it up into another business and then exit to another private equity company or go public for a 3 to 5x return. It's not some mind-blowing return as far as like a type of a risk profile and return profile, but for the most part, it's the private money that's investing in 99% of the businesses in the United States. Um, the public equity space, so like your stocks, your publicly traded companies, there's only a couple thousand of those companies that are traded on the public markets. There's millions of businesses in the United States, and those are all funded with private capital.
Mm, I love it. And for you, you've had to be innovative in your space. How has that played a role for you as a
Uh,
CEO?
I think that what CEOs and C-suite in general needs to remember is that, like, whether you are the C-suite of a business you own or a C-suite in a business that you don't own, that you have to treat it the same way. Um, you're an owner, you take ownership in that role, you take ownership in the success of the business that you're running. And so for me, I have a lot of, I mean, obviously this is my business, so I am part of every aspect of it, but when you're blending a couple different concepts, because the way that wealth management, the industry exists, financial services industry exists today, it's very fragmented. You have wealth managers, you have insurance, you have estate planning, succession planning, all these different things that all happen in their own little spaces. And I'm trying to combine that experience all together um, through, one initiative with the client or the investor. And that's how family offices are run because the wealth is managed like a business. There's
Mm,
a CEO, there's a COO, there's a CFO of someone's family office, of somebody's literal net worth. And so I think that taking that mind shift and teaching investors how to be the C-suite of their wealth or find the C-suite of their wealth is something that's not currently being done in the wealth industry.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is something that needs to be passed on throughout the generations. Like, we talk a lot about how things are shifting and changing, and we can't do things the same way that we've always done it. What do you think has helped you be so creative in that and thinking differently and getting behind, this message and pushing this forward when sometimes it can feel like we're ahead of the times?
Yeah. I think that a lot of it has to do with, the privilege that I sit in. I was raised in an affluent home. I, have been around money or the concept of money my entire life. And fortunately, unfortunately, that is the reason why wealth is stayed in a very concentrated group of people. Um, but the coolest thing that's happening now, seeing wealth that's going from third to fourth generation or second to third, these later generations of children, and their concept of money or impact or change. Um, it's my personal opinion that we're headed into like the next version of an industrial revolution, and the generation that we're a part of, the millennials and older Gen Z, um, are really focused on where does the next 50 years go from here, as opposed to the older generations where it was like a fight to make the money and then now a fight to spend the money or hoard the money, and where we don't have that same mindset.
Hmm. What do you think the biggest mindset shift is that maybe a CEO that's part of the Gen X or Boomer generation listening to this is saying, how do I actually support, the next generation of employees that I have?
Um, One, it's starting to even just have that thought in general, like to care in the first place,
Mhm.
because there is a huge divide between, at least the people that we work with, where you have a group of people who look at their wealth planning or their investment strategy as, um, I don't want to include my next generation at
Mhm.
all. And then the polar opposite of like, I don't need any of this and want it to go now immediately to the next generation.
Right.
And I think that that's challenging to try to get the people in the middle to realize like you have to decide now that you care about the legacy that you're building or the company that you're building or involving the next generation, because if you don't pass down the skill set, if you don't pass down the mission, then it will end with you. And it's a lot of responsibility to have that.
Hmm.
But it's important. And I think that you're a leader for a reason, right? You're in a
Hmm.
position of leadership for a reason because you can connect to that mission. And it's just about keeping that intention and pushing through no matter, what the hurdles are that are putting in front of you.
Right. And I think one of the things that I hear a lot, and especially from CEOs, is, every generation has had something to say about the generation before them. And we've always, we've kept moving forward. I mean, right now it's 10,000 boomers are retiring per week. So with that being said, what is different now in this time in 2024 that maybe we haven't seen before, and why we're considering these different alternatives of supporting people and changing the way that we meet people where they are? Like, why now?
I think it's because the older generation isn't actually one retiring. They won't let go, even though they're gone from like the physical space of their work. They're still like very much entrenched in like doing things around in their community and in their networks. And sometimes that is helpful and sometimes that is not helpful.
Mhm.
Uh, like you see this, it, you have a much older demographic in positions of tremendous power that won't be around to see the consequences of their decisions. And so I think that there has to be a little bit of pushback on, okay, yes, you've been able to build a lot of really great things. However, you're not going to be able to see the next transition of that. So what are the transferable skills that we
Right,
can take advantage of while you're here and then get out of the way?
right. Yeah.
And
It's
again,
knowledge transfer.
yeah, it's a hard conversation to have, but it's necessary.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it everywhere. And I think that when you look in the news right now, or you look at the future of work, things are changing so rapidly that if you don't have this innovative and creative mindset like yourself, Kelly, as a CEO, it's going to be really hard to stay in the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's real. I mean, people, they're doing different things now. It's just changing. What for you would you say to a CEO that maybe can't take as big of risks, or maybe they're afraid, or what is your advice to help them start thinking more creatively, more innovatively, to really support this next generation to continue to have their business thrive in today's world? What is your advice?
I think that we're responsible for taking calculated risks every day. So, not, and the reason why we're here, there's might be a little bit of a difference between a CEO in the corporate space and a CEO in the non-corporate entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneurs are crazy people. We're going to take risks all the time,
Mm,
forever, and there's nothing that's going to stop us. But I think that there is the little person in the back of your head when you're responsible for much larger organizations, that says like, if you do this, it could be detrimental to people.
mm,
And so I think that those large decisions are difficult to make. And um, it's about taking time and space to calculate the risks and looking at things in a much longer time period. So constantly focusing on, a goal 10 years out, whether you plan to be in that position 10 years or not, is what can you do today that's going to positively impact something that far in the future? Because each one of the things that you're doing, is going to take that long to really come to fruition totally. Um, and who can you partner with to help mitigate those risks? Like you don't have to take on all that responsibility yourself. I think that like leaning on people who might know better, um, or have more confidence in space that you might lack confidence will help making those big risky decisions.
I love that. Yeah, I think two things really that stood out to me there. Number one is that you definitely don't have to do it all on your own. And number two, sometimes for you, it just is like, can you think more long term? Because we're always thinking about, how do I just fix this issue that's here right now? And when we're not thinking that far ahead, we just stay. We stay right here. And that's not helpful at all. So, Kelly, for you, what are you afraid of? Because you're a CEO, obviously, you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot of stress involved, but what scares you and how do you work through that?
I think it's like I think we all are afraid of failure, but in a different way. Like the way that we build our businesses, it requires a lot of like time and patience and like flexibility. And you're navigating, like for me, like I'm navigating that at a couple different levels. Like I'm navigating it in the portfolio companies we invest in and those individual problems of the businesses. I'm dealing it with like internally with my own company, right? And then also the investors mindset. So I've convinced all these people, right, to give me a bunch of money to go invest on their behalf with this goal, right, and this strategy. And I have to build and reassure confidence like constantly, whether I'm confident or not in a group of people. So navigating, all of that, the fear is that I'll have a moment of weakness as far as the confidence goes, and that will seep into everyone else's confidence, which will make the whole thing implode, right? So it's a lot to balance. But again, having people around you that remind you and validate like you're on the right path, this is, what you should be doing is very helpful when you do have those moments where you're like, am I actually having the impact that I want to have? And am I doing it the right way? And, these types of things.
I love that. Yeah, I think a lot of it that we even talk about here at FeelSwell is relying on your team, like really depending on them. And it just keeps going back to that is that you don't have to do it all by yourself. But can you, and most teams are remote now, so can
Mhm.
you make that time to intentionally get together and show and share that, those moments of we're working through this together, we're on the same path, we're working towards these goals, and it's really showing that we can do this. And that
Yeah.
helps because we're human.
Yeah.
As CEOs, it doesn't matter who you are, we're all human. We all do the same things when we get home at the end of the day, right? And we finish, and we need to take care of each other, especially in today's landscape and world and how quickly things are shifting and changing. What's the most fun that you have in your business, Kelly?
The most fun that I have in my business. Um, I think the most fun that I have in my business is like seeing people get excited about like different milestones, um, and being empowered by something that they've done. Like from the investor's perspective, like for a lot of them, this is their first exposure to any type of alternative investment that they've like made personally. Like they've made the decision. It wasn't just like picked out for them. And so when they're like getting involved with like the data, or they see something on TV that's like, oh, they're a part of, I think that it's cool to see and get the feedback from them like, oh, this has been really exciting and empowering. And from the business owner's perspective, you know, we at the end of the day, we might just be a check, but for some of them that was life changing. And uh it doesn't matter if it like works out or not. There was a moment there that um I think was really really powerful. And so that's probably my favorite part is like seeing the change that something insignificant as money can make for somebody is really important and fun for me.
I love it. Yeah, it helps you at night when you're like done with the end of the day, you have all your stresses, whatever it may be, your to-do list, just knowing that you are changing people's lives. That's really powerful. What is one piece of advice that you would give to CEOs listening to this podcast about being innovative and creative that they could take away with them today? They're ending maybe their drive, maybe they're on a walk. What can they take away to really sum up how to be more creative, be more innovative, to go against the grain in today's society, today's world where we're headed?
I think that there's so many tools available now to like actually play around with ideas, like to just try things out in a controlled environment, that you should be at least thinking about and playing with different ideas. Because at the end of the day, we literally made all of this up. Like everything that we had, we made it up. It's literally made up. So sometimes when you feel your blood pressure being really high and you're like stressed out and worried about things, you kind of just need to take a deep breath and realize like We made this up. It's literally all made up. We can change the path at any point. And it just means that like if it does all fail, like you have some apologies to make and you have to like get up and start again. So and if that's the worst thing that can happen, like it everything's going to be just fine.
I love it. I love it. We'll wrap up there. Kelly, how can people connect with you? You know, if they want to learn more, they want to check out alternative wealth partners, where can they find you? I know we're going to link everything in the show notes, but feel free to say it too.
So you can find out more about Alternative Wealth Partners on our website, alternativewealthpartners.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so if you want to follow me, I post articles, I do opinion pieces, I connect the things that I'm learning about on LinkedIn, and it's just Kelly Ann Winget on LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one, and same with all the social medias.
I love it. Kelly, we could talk all day long. We could keep going on and on. I'm sure you're going to be back on the podcast with a new episode title. We'll be back. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.